Okay, what is Chambers of My Heart? What is that?
Hey guys, it's your humble host, or Kale if you prefer. So I'm back with another video. So to give a little bit of context for this one, it's going to be another react. So I have been following the stuff with Erika Kirk and Candace Owens kind of on and off. And when Charlie Kirk first died, everybody, I think, was sucked into the emotional support for Erika Kirk. And then I started to see kind of like whispers on the wind. People started to go after Candace because she started to point out irregularities in stories, contradicting facts. There was contradicting stories from Charlie Kirk's security staff and compared to Erika Kirk. So I've been kind of following this. I'm like, okay, whatever. Maybe it's people feeding Erika Kirk one thing and then Candace Owens another thing. And what really started to get me to kind of look at stuff is I had people that I completely trust and respect start to really kind of question the narrative and start to post other things. So I'm like, okay, this isn't just some weird beef or whatever. There's something really sinister going on. So I'm starting to listen to things a bit more. Now, do I trust Candace Owens 100%? No. Not because of any personal beef. Like, I don't know her. I've never talked with her. I still have questions about her days when the anti-SJW community was around. I don't know if those were ever addressed. Me and my dad have had discussions about Candace Owens. Anyway, though, it's not preventing me from looking at what she has to say. I started to watch her coverage, The Bride of Charlie, and I came across this video. I don't know anything about this YouTube channel. It's called Pop Snaps. But I'm gonna react to the video because there's some stuff in here that's being pointed out, and I'm gonna give the underlining implications that I'm getting from the video just so you guys are prepared and understand where I'm coming from when I watch this. So here's implication one is that Erika Kirk had been following Charlie Kirk for a while, even during her previous relationship, and somehow organized things or got it to a point where she was able to meet Charlie Kirk because their first meeting was at an airport, and there's three different versions of that. So what I feel is being implied here is that Erika had set this all up from the get-go with the help of her mom. Now, it's also being implied because there's stories that I have seen about how Erika Kirk ran orphanages. I don't remember where exactly they were at, but she worked or was underneath a firm that is now linked to the Epstein files. This is some conspiracy, quote unquote, level stuff. But what's being implied is that Erika Kirk married Charlie Kirk, used him, ended her previous relationship suddenly, and the children, again, this is the underlying implications I'm getting. This is not me saying this. When we go to watch the video together, you're gonna see what I'm talking about. But the children that Erika Kirk and Charlie Kirk have brought up together, the under implication, if you listen between the lines, is that these are not Charlie's kids. That one or two of the kids were from her previous relationship, because it's also said that Erika Kirk, in this video it's being said, that after Erika and Charlie got married, she got pregnant really fast, and that's not in the realm of impossibilities. It does happen quite a bit, but let's just watch the video because I don't want to make this video longer than it needs to be. And if you guys haven't started to question stuff by now, you guys really need to start, because what's been revealed with the Epstein files, our own people in power, from the Trump administration to the Senate, House, Congress, whatever, there's a lot of dark networks at play here, and there has been so for a while. We have WEF, we have the European Union. There's a lot of networks at play that have been trying to control stuff and pull strings behind the scenes. The exposure of Epstein's network is exposing other networks, so you guys really need to start paying attention. Let's start to watch.
The security that's to his right, and allegedly explicitly said that they are going to kill me tomorrow.
Come after me, call me names, I don't care. Call me what you want, go down that rabbit hole, whatever. But when you go after my family, my Turning Point USA family, my Charlie Kirk Show family, when you go after the people that I love.
But he was not messaging people the day before saying, I'm going to be murdered, they're coming after me, someone's going to kill me.
And here's the thing, because I forget where or who Charlie Kirk's head of security is. His own head of security came out and said, like, yes, I was getting these text messages from Charlie. Charlie was legit they're going to kill me. And this has to do around pro-Israel. Now, let me just reiterate my stance here, because I don't want people to accuse me of being a Zionist or anti-Semitic. People on both sides of that argument are stupid. So, let me just reiterate. I am not pro the modern government of Israel. I forget which verse it's at, the synagogue of Satan, which talks about there's a group going around praying as the Jews, God's children, and doing heinous stuff under the guise of this lie. So there is that. And then there is the actual, because I was doing a little bit of reading on this, I support the actual Israelites, which, according to what I'm reading, I'm not a theologist or whatnot, but from what I've been reading is the Israelites are scattered everywhere in the globe and will begin to migrate back to Israel. So this is not me being anti-Semitic. I am not for the modern government of Israel. I am for, however, us taking out the Islamic regime of Iran, and Iran being returned back to its former glory the way that it was before the Islamic regime took over in 1979. So, with that being said, a lot of the speculation around Charlie Kirk's death was that once he pulled out of the pro-Israel movement, the Zionist movement, is when they got him or they assassinated him. There's also contradicting stories that I've been seeing, how there's a guy kind of in front who used a particular type of pistol, and he kind of moved a certain way to where he exposed his palm, and then as soon as Charlie was shot in the neck, this guy kind of hid and walked away, and the guy, what is his name, Tyler Robinson, is the patsy that they're trying to blame the trans cult, because there's this all over the place. And you know, anytime that something happens, you guys who have been on YouTube long enough, Facebook, social media, what have you, you guys will know that anytime something happens to, say, like a big figure, you will have particular groups that will try to take credit for it, even though they were nowhere involved with it, because they want that infamy, they want that fear, they want that to be instilled in people so they're not messed with. And I kind of think that's what happened here, where once Charlie Kirk got assassinated, you had certain groups try to take credit for it when they had nothing to do with it. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with it. Let's continue watching.
He didn't say that. And I have his cell phone.
There are moments in a story where something shifts, where a new development lands, and
real quick, you can have someone's cell phone. That doesn't mean crap. You could probably have someone's cell phone and have the app that Charlie was using to text message other people completely delete it. I'm a wireless specialist. Just because you have someone's cell phone does not mean you have access to everything. There could be hidden apps on there. There could be hidden messages. Our smartphones, there are so many things, so many ways to message people now. And I don't know if what Charlie Kirk was messaging his head security guards. I don't know the exact application, but having his cell phone doesn't mean anything. For all I know, freaking Erika could have had the cell phone and deleted the app. I don't freaking know. Again, though, I was a wireless specialist. There's all kinds of ways and all kinds of things you can do with your cell phone. Just because you physically have someone else's phone doesn't mean you have access to everything.
Suddenly, everything that came before it looks completely different. What is happening right now behind the scenes of the Erika Kirk saga is exactly that kind of moment. And the person at the center of this new development is not a political rival, not a journalist, not an online investigator. It is Charlie Kirk's own mother. When a grieving mother starts quietly questioning the official story being told about her son's final days, when she starts pulling interview clips side by side and realizing the versions do not match, that is not gossip. That is not political warfare. That is a mother who loved her son and is no longer convinced that the person controlling his legacy is telling the truth about what happened to him. And that development changes the entire shape of this story.
Okay, so just a heads up, because what you guys are going to hear in this video, you guys remember like the big memorial that they had for Charlie and whatnot, and Erika spoke at it, and I believe it was Trump, JD Vance. You know who didn't speak at it? Charlie's parents. And what this video implies, what Pop Snap implies, is that Charlie's parents were not allowed to speak at Charlie's own funeral, which is crazy to me, but that's the implication.
Because here is the reality of what that means. Erika Kirk has spent months building a carefully controlled public narrative. She has managed the interviews, the messaging, the memorial, the organization, the merchandise, the tours, and the media appearances. She has positioned herself as the keeper of Charlie's legacy and the authoritative voice on who he was, what he believed, and what happened in his final hours. The entire structure of that narrative depends on people accepting her version of events without too many questions. But Charlie's mother has questions, and she has apparently been comparing notes. And according to people close to the family, the more she compares, the more the story stops adding up. Let's start with the contradiction that reportedly caught Charlie's mother's attention first, because it is the kind of contradiction that is very hard to explain away once you see it clearly laid out.
Oh, also something too, and I'll see if I can find this video and post a link in the description. One of the things that Candace Owens covers in her Bride of Charlie, because I've gotten through the first video, I believe. It's one of those videos where you have to look at it where she's talking, because she does show stuff on the screen. So this is not something you could just put in the background and listen to. Anyway, one of the things that she covers is that before Charlie died, there was a wedding picture of him and Erika in his office, and this was in view anytime he's on camera sitting in his office. After he died, though, that wedding photo was gone, and so when Erika Kirk was in his office, she was kind of talking about, oh, hey, I moved this photo down, so what is the name? Gabby? Charlie Kirk's daughter could see it, which is kind of weird. So I was thinking about that, because I'm like, well, if you have your husband's office that you're trying to preserve, the daughter wouldn't necessarily need to have the wedding photo put down a second off, because you could just give her another picture of you and Charlie. Candace is implying that Charlie had removed the photo album. There's a little snapshot of him and Erika having a conversation on stage, and I'm trying to remember exactly what the conversation was. Charlie was trying to explain about marriage and whatnot, like, hey, it's best to marry young, and you know Charlie's usual spiel, and I don't mean that in a bad way. And Erika Kirk kind of demeaned him on stage, and you can kind of see like the hurt set in, and it's to the point where he starts messing with his wedding ring. I think I posted it somewhere in my Discord. I don't know. I have to find it, but it was really, really bad. And it's kind of being implied, because this is a rumor on the wind, that Charlie Kirk did not include Erika Kirk in his will. I have not seen any evidence to prove this right or wrong. This is just a whisper on the wind. It's the implication, and that their wedding was getting ready to go completely sideways. That's also what's been talked about.
In one of Erika's early interviews following Charlie's death, including a conversation with the New York Times, she described the night before Charlie's final trip in very specific terms. She said the atmosphere was tense and heavy. She said they had dinner with a faith leader. She said she urged Charlie to wear a bulletproof vest before he left. She said that a friend had suggested Charlie speak behind bulletproof glass at the upcoming event.
Sorry, cutting in here again because this video does not talk about it, but Candace Owens does. In her Bride of Charlie, I believe it's the first video. She talked about how the last night that Erika Kirk and Charlie Kirk were together in their home, Erika Kirk had told Charlie, if you want to get actual decent sleep, go sleep in said daughter's room. Forgive me, I forget the daughter's name. I want to say it's Gabby, but I don't quite remember. Gibby or Gabby. But anyway, so go sleep in the daughter's room. Which to me is a wife, because Candace is also married with a husband and kids of her own. So I'm also a wife, so I'm going to comment on this as a wife. If you are telling your husband that for him to get proper amount of sleep, to go sleep in his daughter's room, there's 3 implications I can gather from that. Number 1, you're kind of in that mood, but he needs sleep, so you're going to send him out. That's a weird one, but kind of a weird outlier there. 2, you guys are that emotionally heated with each other that being in the same bed is going to keep both of you up, indicating a huge fight or things are just not doing well and you guys need to be in separate rooms sleeping. 3, that Erika Kirk is going to be staying up doing something in the room. Those are the 3 that I can really think of as a married wife. My money, because of everything else that's coming out, my money's on the second one where things were just so heated and there was so much tension that they could not sleep peacefully in the same room. Me and my husband, obviously you have fights as a married couple. There are times where you go to bed mad. Not a good idea, because you don't sleep very well. And you can sense each other's anger, and if one pops awake, the other one's going to wake up, and it's just not a good time. But, so like I said, money's on the second one. This video does not talk about it, but Candace Owens does talk about it in her Bride with Charlie series.
Read that back. Bulletproof vest, bulletproof glass, a faith leader at dinner, a heavy, tense atmosphere. That is not a description of a routine evening before a routine event. That is a description of people who believed there was a credible, specific, immediate threat to Charlie Kirk's physical safety.
Really interesting.
Sorry, I know I'm cutting in here a lot, and people are like, well, shut up and let the video play. I get that. But something I will say, guys, that is a very weird conversation to have, especially if you know if there are other things going on in the background. I almost want to say something here, but I don't want to rail too much about. What I will say is this. If you have someone who you know is going to a dangerous situation, as a spouse, as a wife or husband or what have you, you're going to tell your significant other, hey, make sure you do A through F or whatever. Do you need anything? Is there anything I can do on my end to make sure that you come back home safe? Anybody who has a spouse who does policing, armed security, any type of that work, firefighter, anybody whose job it is to put themselves at risk, especially with a weapon or go into a horrible situation, be fire, earthquakes, whatever. Do you guys get what I'm saying with this? So to have that conversation before this last event that Charlie was at tells me that both Charlie, Erika, and several others knew what was about to go down, or there was a big dark cloud looming over and everybody's like, yeah, this is going to be bad. So I don't want to put on my tinfoil hat, but what I've been getting, what I've been watching is really, really dark. And remember, Charlie Kirk had a big voice, a genuine voice, and was getting people to think. And he was not pro-Israel.
Interesting that on Charlie Kirk's list of priorities, he did not even name his wife.
Wrote on everything. He has papers everywhere. This says it's the priorities. It says family, children, legacy, kids number 1.
That is the description of an environment where the people closest to him were actively afraid he might be targeted. If that version of events is true, it raises enormous questions about what was known, by whom, and how nothing was done to prevent what happened next. It implies foreknowledge of danger at a level that demands serious investigation and serious answers. But then, weeks later, Erika sat down with Megyn Kelly for a live interview. And in that interview, she described that same night, the same final evening before Charlie's death, as normal and calm. Just a regular night, nothing unusual, nothing heavy, nothing that suggested anyone was afraid of anything. Those two descriptions of the same night cannot both be true. They are not variations on a theme or different emotional interpretations of the same events. They are contradictory accounts. One says there was immediate fear, specific precautions, and a tense atmosphere charged with a sense of danger. The other says everything was fine, and Charlie's mother apparently noticed.
And see, that's the thing too, is when you have people like this, they don't know how the internet works. And the fact that who's not really like present online, a YouTuber or whatever, because as the video implies and describes, Charlie's mom doesn't even have a platform. She has she's not trying to clout chase, she's not trying to do anything. The contradictions started to add up and she noticed. So that's when she started to look. And it is very, very weird. You give one interview where things were emotionally tense and you guys implied that the implication is like you knew something was going to happen, possibly happen, and then give another interview to where it's light and airy and it doesn't make sense. Do people not realize that people are going to compare these side by side? I don't understand with all the social media interaction and spaces that these people have, it never occurs to them that, hey, people are going to go and look at stuff and compare it side by side, whether it was 10 years ago to 2 years ago. A lot of people still don't know how social media works, and it's kind of scary, actually. But it actually helps, too, that these people are stupid with it, because this is how you catch people in lies.
According to insiders close to the family, she began pulling those interviews and placing them side by side, watching them back to back, listening carefully to the specific details each version included and excluded. And the more she compared them, the more one conclusion became unavoidable to her. Erika is lying about something. The only question is what and why. Charlie's mother was not the only one catching these contradictions. Around the same period that she was reportedly doing her own private analysis, Candace Owens began publicly pointing out similar inconsistencies, and then she dropped a detail that reportedly made Charlie's mother go completely cold. Candace revealed that according to sources she had spoken with directly, there was a Zoom call on September 9th involving Charlie Kirk, Josh Hammer, and a rabbi based in Israel.
Who are Charlie's parents? I think that is a question that we have all asked. Matter of fact, let me just take it a step further. Where are his cousins?
And the purpose of that call, according to those sources, was not casual prayer or spiritual encouragement. It was about political positioning, specifically about where Charlie Kirk was going to land on issues that had significant international implications. Now think about that in the context of the timeline. Charlie was a major conservative voice with a massive platform and an organization that was deeply embedded in American political life. A conversation about political positioning involving a rabbi in Israel happening in the period immediately before his death is not a neutral or unremarkable detail. That is the kind of meeting that happens when there are serious interests at stake. Interests that extend beyond individual conviction into the realm of organized political strategy.
So if you're not picking up what this lady's putting down, she's implying, and this is, again, you have to listen in between the lines because I can't say the stuff outright. So I'm going to say it outright. The underlying implication that I'm getting is that the Zoom call with the rabbi pretty much determined Charlie's life and death at that point, because a rabbi, if we are to believe that the Zoom call took place, the rabbi, I think, was trying to figure out where Charlie stood, because he started to kind of get vocal in text messages from what Candace Owens has shown, that he's starting to question the stuff that Israel's doing and whatnot. I think the rabbi was like, okay, do we need to take this? This is just speculation, so please chill. I think that call was determined how Charlie Kirk was going to be dealt, because it doesn't make sense for a call like that to exist and then Charlie Kirk to suddenly be taken out, and then it start to get implied that he was pulling away from the pro-Israel movement. And as you guys have seen on Twitter and even YouTube and the other platforms, is that it is now being considered anti-Semitic to criticize anything that Israel does. If you guys remember correctly, because I've talked about this in a past video, where you have big heads in Israel's cybersecurity wanting to limit the First Amendment. You have people who want to do social credit scores for anybody who criticizes Israel. It's considered anti-Semitic. there's all kinds of stuff going on and being implied. I won't go into it in this video, but there's stuff that I have been watching throughout the years. I've even seen videos a while back, on Twitter, mind you. This is, I believe, before Elon Musk took over, of Jewish rabbis calling for the death of anybody who wasn't a Jew. I'm not kidding. They're kind of similar to how Islam operates. That is, no. If you guys hear anything, guys, there's been videos talking about the Jewish communities in New York, how they're not very nice. There's all kinds of stuff, and there's actually somebody who just got banned. It was an Asmongold video I watched, and this guy was exposing the Jewish takeover in certain areas, and there's even talks of how, I believe it's in New York, somewhere in New York, where you had a bunch of people, Jewish people, get voted onto a school board, shut down public schools, and then start to funnel vouchers towards Jewish-based schools. These are not conspiracy theories. This is people starting to notice things. Again, I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm not against all the Jewish people. I'm for the actual Israelites. Anybody parading around as a Jew who isn't one, synagogue of Satan. The Bible's clear of what that is. I'm not going to BS around it. But so there's a lot of stuff going on, and the fact that Erika Kirk is now being connected in a way to the Epstein stuff being leaked is actually, people need to start looking at who they follow and question everything. Stop following people blindly.
But here is the detail that hit the hardest. After that Zoom call ended, Charlie allegedly sent text messages to two people who were close to him. One of those people was reportedly his security chief.
About the day before the shooting,
He was at the office and we were going to meet for dinner beforehand with a dear friend of ours who I wanted to just be with us and pray with us.
And the words in those messages, according to the people claiming to have knowledge of them, were, "They are going to kill me." If those text messages exist, if they can be verified and produced, they completely reframe everything about Charlie Kirk's death. They do not suggest a man dealing with paranoid spiritual anxiety or random internet fear. They suggest a man who had just come off a specific conversation with specific people about specific issues, and who left that conversation believing his life was in danger. That is not a small claim. That changes the entire nature of what questions need to be asked about what happened to Charlie Kirk. And it changes the entire context of Erika's behavior after his death. The speed of the merchandise launch, the fundraising operation, the Zoom call where she was laughing about the money generated from his memorial, the sidelining of his family at the ceremony.
So, yeah, I will say one of the major flags to me, and I know it's not the same as losing a spouse, because I've talked about on my channel how I lost my sister over a decade ago, and the response that I had with that, just real quick, even touching her stuff, because we had a box of her stuff that we got shortly after, just going through that, and there's still stuff that hasn't been gone through. I just, opening the box, I broke. It takes time. I know everybody deals with grief differently, which is the argument people have lobbed in defense of Erika Kirk. But hearing about the fundraiser stuff, laughing about how much money he made from the memorial, and then sidelining his parents. Okay, so something else I'm going to point out too, because of how gaudy she looked during the memorial service, which, by the way, let me just clarify, because I was sucked into all this emotional stuff at first, because we just had a very inspirational speaker assassinated on American soil. That that rocked the entire nation, if not the entire world. It was that big of a deal. So I kind of got sucked into it, and then kind of shortly after started to kind of pull back and go, well, this is kind of weird. When I started to see, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, people I respect and greatly trust start to kind of questioning stuff and start to link stuff, is when I started to jump down the hole going, yeah, this is really, really shady. So anyway, getting back to what I was saying, when Erika Kirk came out in the memorial, her fingers were caked in rings. Now, when somebody is mourning, again, everyone's a little bit different. I would think like the last thing you're going to wear is a bunch of jewelry flashing just how rich you are. To me, that's gaudy, that's trashy. I personally, like, all my stuff is either from thrift stores or Walmart. I don't care if it's good, I'm gonna wear it, so whatever. But that to say, at a funeral, the last thing I'm going to do, even if I had a bunch of money, even if I was living well off, I'm not complaining about my lifestyle or my condition. I'm grateful for the things that I have. But what I'm saying, if I'm mourning somebody, really mourning someone, if even if it's on a big stage or whatnot, the last thing I'm gonna do is like freaking bling it out. It comes off as weird, and then I'm gonna make sure, say if it was my spouse that passed away and he had like a similar platform, I'm gonna make sure his parents, if they want to, have a say. That's my spouse. That's my family-in-law. So the fact that she sidelined them and didn't even let them speak, now again, I'm taking what the video is saying. I'm responding to what the video is saying. I don't have all the details, obviously. I'm not in this mix. Don't want to be. But at the same time, if you're sitting there laughing about how much money you made off the memorial, whatnot, when my sister died, we did create like a fundraiser or whatnot to bring her body out of state, and it was a hard thing to do. All these steps were freaking difficult. There was no laughter. There wasn't anything. Oh, this is fun. No, it was freaking horrible. It just, that's the way that she went out was just, I won't go into it, but when you mourn someone and you have to pull like finances or whatnot, it's not an easy thing, because you kind of sit there and go, is this really happening? Is this all a bad dream? And that's how I felt. That's how a lot of my family members felt. We weren't having fun, and the way that Erika Kirk is responding, I don't care how big the platform is, I don't care how much crap you're running, people are right to point out there's certain things that, yes, the world is going to continue to spin even with the loss of life, but there's certain things that need to be put on pause. Make a small time of mourning, like, hey, you know what, we're going to continue with the bare minimum stuff, the bare essentials, but everything else is going to kind of rest just to kind of mourn. And really looking at this with like the emotional blinders off, there's a lot of weird stuff. And if that was my husband in a big chair and I want to be honored, I would honor his parents. But considering the stuff that's going to come out about Erika, I'm going to let the video continue.
If Charlie told people close to him that he feared for his life, and then he died, and then his wife immediately pivoted to merchandising and fundraising and laughing on internal calls, the public is right to ask hard questions about all of it.
The event that happened with Charlie, the assassination with Charlie. And so I know that, you and I even talked about how I used to say, Charlie, have you ever thought about wearing a vest? He would nod to that and be like, I've looked into it. But he'd always say, if they're going to get me, they're going to get me. He wasn't afraid.
According to people who have been tracking this story closely, what really pushed Charlie's mother over the edge was not just the contradictions in the interviews. It was Erika's response to the questions being raised, specifically the silence, when the contradictions started becoming public. When people began pointing out that the two versions of the final night could not both be accurate. When Candace Owens started laying out the timeline publicly and asking the questions that were circulating privately, Erika said nothing.
Let me also point out something too, because there's a fight right now among the conservative talking heads. So when Candace started to come out about all this stuff, and I know she has said some crazy, crazy stuff, you had conveniently, because this is how, and this is proven, for example, when you have the mainstream media wanting to push a narrative, all of them start saying the same freaking thing. They're giving a script, they're giving something, hey, start pushing this. So something similar happened with the conservative media and the right-wing talking heads, to where all of them, around the same time, started to call Candace Owens a demon. Like, there's screenshots of so many talking heads saying the exact same, if not similar things, like Candace Owens is a demon for asking these questions, for how dare she accuse Erika Kirk, a mourning widow, blah, 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 blah. It was a similar script, and it's kind of being implied that all these people kind of got paid to do it. I don't think the pay part is necessarily true. I think there's probably peer pressure. There was probably, oh, hey, they're starting to say this, I better say the exact same thing too, to be on the right side, quote unquote. So, but yeah, it's kind of weird that they're all saying the similar stuff around the exact same time, because anybody who's been on social media watches the media, how they respond to certain stuff or don't respond. They all start saying the same freaking thing, or start trying to not say the same thing, or bury the story. You guys know how that stuff works. I don't need to explain it to you.
Clarification, no correction, no response. And that silence sent a very specific message to people who were paying attention. Because when you have told two contradictory stories in two major media interviews, and the contradiction gets pointed out publicly, the natural response of an innocent person with nothing to hide is to explain.
He was never afraid of that. Neither was I. Obviously, we protect our children. You know, we don't show their faces on the internet, so that's very intentional. But I think we lived our life in such a way where if that was our last day, it was our last day. Like, we always lived as if it was the last day. That's why Charlie's speeches were so good.
To say there was a misquote, or the context was missing, or emotion affected the recounting, or something that provides a reasonable explanation for why two different accounts exist. Instead, there was nothing. And according to insiders, that is when Charlie's mother reportedly shifted from privately questioning to actively comparing evidence, and, according to some reports, beginning to consider taking more visible action. So once Charlie's mother started pulling the thread on the contradictions, she apparently did not stop at the interview discrepancies. She reportedly went further back, all the way to the origin story, how Erika and Charlie met, and what she found there did not make things any more comfortable. Erika has told the story of how she and Charlie first crossed paths multiple times across different interviews and public appearances.
Guys, really pay attention to the differences here, because you're going to get one version of how Erika was on a spiritual journey with her mom and just conveniently bumped into Charlie Kirk. You're going to get another iteration or interpretation that she had been following Charlie for a while, because her and Charlie kind of floated around in the same spheres. Even Erika Kirk's former I want to say fiance or boyfriend also floated in similar spheres as Charlie. And then I can't remember what the third version was. It kind of got lost in the sauce here. But just kind of pay attention, because, yeah. Yep, come on.
And depending on which version you heard, the story changes in significant ways. In one version, it was a spontaneous, almost romantic encounter at an airport. Erika was on a pilgrimage trip with her mother, a spiritual journey. And Charlie appeared in this chance meeting that felt almost fated. The kind of story that sounds beautiful and providential and fits perfectly into a faith-based conservative narrative about divinely guided relationships.
She screams in the middle of a parking lot. She screams in the middle of a doctor's office. Everybody kind of knows where they were when Charlie got shot. Okay, if this doctor's office had people in it, there's going to be someone who said, hey, I heard a giant scream at my doctor's office, even if they didn't see her. And then I looked at my phone, and 15 minutes later, I learned that Charlie got shot.
Erika is lying about something.
No one can confirm that they saw Erika on this date where she was behaving super shady and just giving me a very straightforward alibi and pretending like they didn't understand the instructions of this alibi for Fort Huachuca. Don't buy Charlie suddenly needed advice from a pastor, a priest, and a rabbi. It sounds ridiculous. On September 8th, that he texted and said, I'm abandoning the pro-Israel cause. Well, Josh Hammer came out and clarified that actually Charlie sent that text message on September 9th, the day before he died.
In another version, she was at that same airport, not for a pilgrimage, but for a job. She was
that was the other version. And then the version, as I said, that is being implied by the video is that she purposefully made sure she was at the airport the same time Charlie was, which that's a little extreme because you would have to have someone keeping tabs on Charlie for you. But that's the implication that the video makes.
Was there professionally. The encounter was still presented as unexpected, but the spiritual framing was gone. It was a different story with a different purpose. And then there was a third version, even simpler, even less romantic. According to this telling, it started with a direct message on social media, a slide into the DMs, no airport, no pilgrimage, no divinely orchestrated chance encounter, just an online message. 3 versions of the same foundational story in a relationship, and none of them line up cleanly with each other. Now, some people might say that memory is imperfect, that people tell stories differently in different contexts, that the core truth can remain consistent even if the details shift.
And that's not true at all, because the details can change the entirety of what actually happened. Just a small detail can change the intention, the overall result. So, no. So, insecurity, I'll give an example, because this is insecurity or even in police report writing. Details matter. Even the slightest detail can change whether or not someone's at fault or whether or not what happened did happen or didn't happen or is implied. It is so important for these details to stay consistent. And if there's a slight change, that makes other changes, which leads to a whole big narration change. So no, details have to stay the same. The core truth, however they want to put it, does not stay the same if the details change. I do not care who says what. This is especially true, and I'm bringing up report writing as an example because details matter. Details determine whether or not someone's going to jail, somebody's getting fired, somebody did A or somebody did B or didn't do C or D. They matter. Anyway.
Many people know that Charlie sensed that he was going to die tomorrow is an absolute fact. Why these individuals are all being quiet about that is a massive question mark, okay?
That is a fair and reasonable argument. When the stakes are low and there is no broader pattern of inconsistency to place the variations in. But in the context of everything else being examined about Erika Kirk, the 2 contradictory accounts of the final night, the financial questions, the behavior after Charlie's death, the family tensions, 3 different versions of how she and Charlie met is not something people are willing to brush aside as innocent variation. It is another data point.
And that's another thing. If you guys go watch the channel Wolves and Finance, I don't remember the details, but he's covering all of the weird, shady stuff that Turning Point USA is kind of doing with their money or whatnot. There's Turning Point USA, and I think there's Turning Point America. And the companies are connected, but being run by 2 different people. And then there's other companies attached to Turning Point USA. I don't have all the details. It's been a little while. I'll put Wolves and Finance's channel in the description as well. Go look into him because he's been covering a lot of stuff, and it's to the point where Turning Point USA sent this guy cease and desist, and this guy is a financial analyst. So he does have, from what I'm seeing and understand, he does have a background in what he's talking about, and their stuff not aligning up in the financial side of Turning Point USA. And also, Wolves and Finance will bring up something in response, because I kind of forgot about this. At one point, I believe it was after Charlie Kirk died, they had advertised pledges for hats. If you donated a certain amount, you would get a hat from Turning Point USA. So it was a little while before anything showed up, and instead of a hat, a really nice hat, people got like this cheap rubber band and this graphically detailed fold card or whatnot. It wasn't anything that the pledge campaign had promised. That's just like one little shady thing. And if you're already lying about campaign promises when people pledge you money, what else are you lying about? We've seen a bunch of YouTubers do that in the past, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Patreon, what have you, and there's always some bigger stuff in the background that they're lying about.
point in a pattern that is becoming very hard to ignore. But the meeting story discrepancies are not even the most uncomfortable part of the timeline questions. Because according to people who have been doing deep research into public records and archived social media posts, Erika may have known of Charlie Kirk's existence as far back as 2015, years before any of the versions she has told about their first meeting would place them in the same space. How is that possible? Because before Erika was with Charlie, she was publicly and visibly in a relationship with a man named Cabot Phillips. She was posting about Cabot. She was calling him her favorite human. The relationship was visible and documented on social media.
She doesn't want to address it. I've looked everywhere. I would like to know more about Charlie's last day. I can obviously put together what Frank said.
Also keep in mind the stuff that's come out about Erika, because the video will go over this as well. Erika Kirk tried telling a lot of people that she didn't date anybody really prior to Charlie. Sorry if you hear the jingle bell, it's my little black cat. But that she didn't date anyone, I believe it was in Manhattan or New York and whatnot, when she literally ended a previous relationship right before getting with Charlie. The video will explain. Just watch.
Said I can put together what his schedule was, but that's not a question that she's comfortable answering. And by the way, that dear friend she's referencing, of course, we now know is a priest that came over to pray over Charlie and Erika's marriage the night before, is what I am told.
And Cabot Phillips knew Charlie Kirk personally. There are photos of Cabot and Charlie together. They were in overlapping circles, which means Erika, through her relationship with Cabot, was not operating in total isolation from Charlie's world while simultaneously claiming she had no connection to it until a chance airport encounter several years later. The idea that Erika existed completely outside Charlie's sphere of awareness until a divinely guided meeting at an airport simply does not hold up against the documented social reality of her actual connections. And when you combine that with the 3 different versions of the meeting story itself, what you get is a picture of someone who has been deliberately managing and reshaping the narrative around how she entered Charlie Kirk's life.
Are we getting what is being put down in the video, folks? Because it's pretty freaking wild.
And then there is the relationship that came right before Charlie, and the timeline surrounding how that ended and what happened next.
Happens thereafter as Charlie concludes this call with Josh and the rabbi, and then he sends off text messages to his security chief, Dan Flood, also to Andrew Colvett, and he says to them that they are going to kill me. Who is they? Well, Erika wants us to believe that he was referring to the left.
Less than a year before...
Which has been all the trans cult stuff, because at first I fell for it too, how the trans cult wanted to take out Charlie Kirk. There was all these sudden messages. Tyler Robertson got exposed as a gay, furry, trans furry, whatever, and that there were all these trans cult terror cells, which, don't get me wrong, that is a thing, but honestly, they don't have anything to do with Charlie's death. I think they're kind of being used as a fallback. Again, there's all kinds of questionable things. Also, let me also point out that the crime scene, that the event area where Charlie Kirk was assassinated, wasn't really properly investigated. The bullet was never recovered, and that the area was very quickly constructed over. So they went through and pretty much cleaned up the area very fast, which is kind of weird. So like I said, I'm starting to catch certain stuff. My followers, my viewers, do your own research. Do not take my word with this, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around what's going on. I did say, I believe it was on Twitter, that TP USA is going to be the next big organization to fall, because I really, at this point, I really think it will. With all the stuff that's coming out, being exposed, and certain people are now going, this stuff does not line up. Candace Owens, Wolves and Finance, as other people, have this channel, Pop Snaps. So I do think TPUSA is the next one going to be fall, if not horribly, horribly get their foundation crumbled. I could be completely wrong, but that's the feeling I'm kind of getting.
Where Erika and Charlie got engaged. Erika was publicly and openly posting about being deeply in love with professional baseball player J.T. Massey. These were not casual social media interactions. She was calling him her favorite human. She was sharing intimate photographs, The relationship was visible, documented, and by all public appearances, serious. And then it vanished completely. No public breakup, no explanation, no visible transition period. The relationship with JT Massey just ceased to exist in Erika's public presence, and shortly after, Erika appeared with Charlie Kirk. The engagement came quickly. The pregnancy followed quickly after that.
Messaging people the day before saying, I'm going to be they're coming after me, someone's going to kill me. He didn't say that. And I have his cell.
The entire timeline.
Okay, so like I said, I used to be aware of the specialist. Just because you have someone's phone does not mean you have access to everything that was on there. For all we know, Charlie could have been messaging these people on a different app and deleted the app before Erika got the phone, or Erika could be lying about what's on the phone. We have, as far as I know, and I've not seen anything subpoenaed about the phone. The fact that you have more than one person come out saying, like, no, we got these text messages, and then you have Erika going, well, these text messages don't exist, implies three things. That Charlie Kirk, before whatever happened, either deleted the messages on his side, but the messages were kept on the other people's side. Some apps are like that. Like, for example, you have Facebook Messenger where you can go delete for you or delete for everyone. So that's one thing. Two, it could be a completely separate app. I don't know what application these messages were put on. The application could have been completely deleted or cleared off on Charlie's side. Or three, Erika Kirk is just flat out lying about what's on the phone. Or she cleared off the phone and then it went, yeah, no, they're not here. So there's three possibilities, possibly more.
From the end of the Massey relationship to the announcement of Erika's pregnancy with Charlie.
There's also a fourth option because now you have certain messaging applications that have an encryption key. And if you do not put in there an encryption key, it will delete all those messages that are encrypted. That's also a fourth option.
Moved at a pace that people who have been tracking the dates find notable. And in the context of the paternity questions that Charlie reportedly raised in his final email, that timeline becomes even more significant. Around this same period, Cabot Phillips also welcomed a child. Cabot, the man Erika had previously been in a serious relationship with, the man who knew Charlie personally, the man whose social circles overlapped with both Erika and Charlie in ways that contradict the airport pilgrimage origin story. All of this was percolating in the background. And according to insiders, Charlie's parents were aware of enough of it that they privately requested DNA testing.
So here's the implication. Okay, if you guys aren't putting down or picking up what the video is putting down. Implication is this. Is Erika Kirk got pregnant with Cabot's child, immediately ended the relationship, went over, started floating around Charlie, got engaged to Charlie, and suddenly, after their marriage, right after their marriage, she was pregnant. So the implication is this, between the lines, is that one of Charlie's kids is not Charlie's. And the parents went, this is kind of weird. Can we get a DNA test to make sure said child, I don't know if they're implying all the children, but at least one of the children, I want to say possibly Charlie's oldest, obviously, whether or not that's actually Charlie's child. I don't know who the oldest is, but the parents are like, hey, DNA test, please.
Not as a hostile attack on Erika, but as a way to settle the questions quietly, definitively, and permanently. They wanted the truth. They expected a calm, private, reasonable conversation about getting clarity on something that mattered deeply to their family. What they allegedly got instead was a complete shutdown, a hard no, no conversation, no explanation, just a wall. Here is where the story takes the kind of turn that nobody saw coming, and that has changed the entire dynamic of this situation.
I was standing there at the ticket line, and there was a guy who was checking out with the guy, you know what I'm talking about, get your ticket, check your bag. And I see him and I was like, I tell my mom, I was like, that guy looks really familiar. And my mom's like, go say hi.
According to sources who have been tracking the family conflict, Erika's mother has become a significant presence in the narrative management operations surrounding this whole saga. Sources close to the situation are saying that Erika's mother believes Candace Owens is manipulating Charlie's parents, feeding them paranoia, amplifying their doubts, and directing their grief toward conclusions that serve Candace's agenda rather than reflecting reality. That is Erika's mother's position, and she has reportedly been actively involved in shaping Erika's public messaging and media strategy from the very beginning, since day one of Charlie's death and the public response to it.
If I remember correctly, because you would have to go watch, it's either Wolves and Finance or The Bride of Charlie, is that it's Erika's mother that had a connection to the firm and got Erika employed over there. Like, there is so much stuff, so forgive me if I'm not keeping this stuff straight, but that she's connected through this firm, and this firm is now connected to Epstein, and then there's rumors, I'm gonna call them rumors, surrounding Erika Kirk about her trafficking children from her orphanage that she ran prior to meeting Charlie. There's all kinds of messed up stuff. Like, go watch Candace's video, watch it a few times, because there's so much details that it actually overloaded my brain, because I'm like, this is nuts. It's a big fat spider web. And then go watch Wolves and Finance, because there's a lot of stuff he goes over. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
She is not a background figure. She is reportedly a central strategic player in how Erika has been managing this entire public situation. But on the other side of that conflict, Charlie's mother is not operating on paranoia fed to her by Candace Owens. She is operating on contradictions she spotted herself, on stories that changed between interviews, on family dynamics she lived and observed firsthand, on a request for DNA testing that was met with a hard wall instead of a reasonable conversation, on a memorial where she was not allowed to speak at her own son's ceremony. That is not outside manipulation. That is a mother processing what is directly in front of her and reaching conclusions based on her own direct experience of the situation.
Which is really messed up, because I didn't watch like the whole memorial ceremony, because I was at work and I was catching like snippets and whatnot. I didn't know at the time that Charlie's parents wasn't allowed to speak. I had no idea of it. And then I will say, so if the stuff that's coming out, because it already looks shady, if the stuff that is coming out is proven true without a reasonable shadow of a doubt, that is going to have some really, really messed up implications. And I will say, just without all this stuff being proven to be right or accurate to the beyond a shadow of reasonable of a doubt, Erika's already messing up, because she's giving too many interviews. The more times that you tell a story and you do not keep certain details accurate, or you are not consistent, the more and more a bigger spotlight is going to be shining on your contradictions. So I think Erika Kirk, like I said, I don't, because of the stuff that I'm seeing, I think she's shady as all hell. I really do. I don't care. I think her mess up is running around to too many outlets, too many people that are willing to platform her and interview her. So I think that is one of the ways that she has messed up already. She's giving too many interviews and telling too many versions of the same story.
So what we now have is two mothers, one defending her daughter with everything she has, managing the narrative and framing every challenge to that narrative as external manipulation. The other quietly pulling evidence, comparing interviews, and, according to reports, now seriously considering sitting down with Candace Owens directly to discuss what she knows.
He got finished with his burger, and he just sat there and he looked at me and he's like, you know what? I'm not going to hire you. And I was like, that's fine. I don't need this job. I'm doing plenty of other things here in Manhattan. He's like, I'm going to date you.
That last detail is the one that Erika's camp should be most concerned about. Because if Charlie's mother sits down with Candace Owens and shares what she knows, what she has seen, what she has been told, what she has concluded from her own private analysis of the timeline and the interviews and the family dynamics, that conversation would be one of the most watched and most significant moments in this entire saga. Charlie's mother does not have a political agenda. She does not have a brand to protect or a platform to grow. She is a mother who lost her son and who has been watching the person controlling his legacy present versions of events that do not align with what she observed and what she knows. Her credibility in that conversation would be significant, and Erika's team clearly understands that, which may be exactly why the pressure to keep her quiet has reportedly been as intense as it has. Step back from the individual details for a moment and look at the overall shape of what is being described across this entire story. Because when you take all of it together, not just this chapter, but everything that has come before it, a very specific and very consistent pattern emerges.
I will say, because I've had this experience before and I've tried to describe this to people, when you have it in your gut, your discernment goes that something is off, but you don't necessarily have the experience or the knowledge to kind of like piece the stuff together, but certain stuff starts to become obvious. It's not a good feeling to have. It's not even a good place to be because you're like, I know something's wrong, something's off, but I can't necessarily prove it because I don't know how. I've been there before and it sucks. And so the fact that Charlie's mom, we don't even know her name. That's how like in the dark she's been. I don't even know Charlie's father's name at this point. They're not trying to be out in the public. But the fact that she's quietly, so when you have, anybody's been on YouTube, you guys have been around enough dramas, my channel, Twitter, so you guys know how this pattern goes. Anytime you have one side going around screeching, giving multiple interviews, and then the contradictions start adding up, you have the other side just quietly picking stuff, gathering. It's called lurking for us who like frequent Kiwi farms and other places. For people who lurk and just quietly start putting stuff together and they hit like a freaking hammer later. That's the difference. So we have one, Charlie's mom, that has been lurking, pulling stuff, learning how to do certain stuff because stuff is not adding up, learning how to look, what to look for. And then we have Erika's mom just going around screeching, trying to defend any challenge to her daughter's narrative. So you guys already kind of know where this is going. And so that's what I'm saying. Turning Point USA is going to crumble or take a massive hit to their foundation because something's going to come out that is just going to blow it up. That is my prediction. I could be completely off base, but with everything that's coming out and the other stuff that's getting exposed right now, yeah, no, oh man.
From the very beginning of Erika's public life, there has been a version of her story presented to the public. And every time that version has been examined closely, every time someone has looked at the actual records, the archived posts, the public documents, the interview transcripts side by side, the version has developed cracks, not small cracks, not the kind of minor inconsistencies that occur naturally in any human life. Big structural cracks that go to the core of who Erika Kirk claims to be and how she claims to have gotten where she is. 3 different versions of how she met Charlie. A prior serious relationship that ended suddenly and was followed very quickly by a pregnancy with Charlie. Paternity questions that Charlie reportedly raised himself in his final email. A request for...
I want to see this email because I keep referencing it, but I haven't seen anything of an email. I want to see it.
DNA testing that was shut down instead of addressed.
I met Charlie. The only reason I sat down with him because I thought it was a consulting position for work. I did not date in Manhattan. I saw the pits of hell of the dating pool through my roommates.
2 completely contradictory descriptions of the final night before Charlie's death. A Zoom call with laughter about memorial revenue 2 weeks after her husband died. A memorial where his own parents were not permitted to speak. Whistleblowers inside TPUSA being pushed out when they ask questions. An IRS investigation into organizational finances.
And that's what Wolves and Finance references. Again, link to his channel in the description below.
A job at a firm connected to Epstein.
And no, that's not a promotion. I don't know him. He popped up on my radar and I clicked on him and I watched him like, oh, you're onto something. So I don't know him. This is not a promotion. I'm just referencing a video I watched.
Linked properties despite no obvious relevant experience. A family background connected to a name that appears in the Epstein files. And now Charlie's own mother quietly building a case and reportedly considering going public with what she knows. None of those things in isolation would be enough to draw definitive conclusions, but all of them together. The consistency of the pattern, the repeated emergence of contradictions every time scrutiny is applied, the repeated choice of silence or deflection over transparency, that is not a series of coincidences. That is a system operating according to a logic that only makes sense if there is something significant being protected.
Also, something too, Because if Charlie's mom is going to come forward, Charlie's security team, if I was Charlie's security team and I was questioning stuff and I had Charlie's mom kind of start to question, I would be doing a security detail with her. Because people, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen, if Charlie got taken out, and what the implication is, if he got taken out because he started to back away from Israel and he could have really turned the tide of being pro-Israel and because he had a very big voice, if Charlie's mother is starting to question and has the keys to blow the freaking narrative by Erika Kirk and Turning Point USA to all hell, I don't think she's safe. And I'm not being crazy. I'm not being a conspiracy theorist. The fact, because I believe it's going to say it towards the end of this video, or if it hasn't already been said, there's pressure on Charlie's mother to shut up. So we don't know if she's getting threats. We don't know if she's being fought. We have no idea because of how deep this rabbit hole goes. I don't think anything's off the table. I really don't. So if I was Charlie's security detail, I would be floating around Charlie's mom like white on rice. Because if she legit, she may not have the key knowingly, but she may point to something that is the key to the final nail in the coffin. I'm just saying, I would be protecting Charlie's mom right now. Because the fact that there's narrative, Erika Kirk's narrative is crumbling, and Charlie's mom goes, wait, I've noticed contradictions here, here, and here, and she's still digging. And she is seeing Charlie and Erika get together, and there's possible red flags even back then that she has documentation of. Charlie's security needs to be protecting Charlie's mom, like, straight up.
Random DM on Instagram, and you never know, like, if these people are the real people or whatever. Anyway, so it was Charlie. It was in my DMs, and he was like, hey, I'm in New York. I want to sit down and talk to you about the Faith stuff. I have a Fox hit, total, like, name drop. I have a Fox hit to do out in the city, and then I need to meet with you afterwards, so it's going to be really late.
And remember what Erika Kirk herself has reportedly said. Do not believe in coincidences. The public is simply taking her advice. The question that people are now sitting with, the one that has this situation feeling like it is approaching a critical turning point, is what happens next. If Charlie's mother moves from private analysis to public statement, the landscape of this story changes entirely.
Yep, and like I said, Charlie's security detail needs to be floating around Charlie's mom. And if there was somebody, because this is also being implied, that some of Charlie's security detail knew and let this happen and could have done stuff to prevent his assassination. So they need to like kind of like purge whoever it was, if that's even true, I don't know, but they need to make sure if they do have Charlie's security detail floating around his mom, they need to make sure there's no wolves in sheep's clothing, if you will. Like there's, like I said, because of what is going on and with the Epstein stuff getting leaked and unearthed on these other networks, nothing is off the frickin' table. Nothing.
She is not a political commentator with an agenda. She is not an online investigator piecing together archived posts. She is the woman who raised Charlie Kirk, who knew him his entire life, who watched his marriage from the inside of his family, and who has been sitting with contradictions that she identified herself without anyone feeding them to her. Her voice in this conversation would carry a weight that no external source can replicate. And the fact that she is reportedly even considering speaking, that she has gotten to the point where silence feels less acceptable than stepping forward, suggests that what she has seen and concluded has crossed a threshold that she can no longer just quietly sit with. For Erika Kirk and her team, the most dangerous person in this entire situation is not Candace Owens. It is not an IRS investigator. It is not a whistleblower inside TPUSA. It is a mother who loved her son, watched something happen to him, and is no longer satisfied with the story she has been given about how and why it happened. Because when that mother speaks, she will not be speaking from a political script. She will not be speaking to build a brand or grow a platform. She will be speaking because she lost her son and she deserves the truth about what happened to him. And that kind of testimony, simple, personal, direct, and rooted in love, is the kind that breaks through all the noise and lands directly in people's hearts.
Makes sense to me as I was doing this timeline because I remember when Charlie met Erika. I remember Tyler setting this up. I remember the conversations and I still have the conversations, thankfully, because I delete nothing.
The clock on this story is ticking louder than ever. the contradictions are stacking higher. The circle of people staying quiet is getting smaller. And right at the center of it all, a mother is comparing notes and getting closer every day to deciding that she has been quiet long enough. Whatever happens next in this story, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. The version of events Erika Kirk has been presenting to the public was never going to hold forever. Stories built on contradictions eventually collapse under their own weight. And when the people who know the truth best are the ones asking the loudest questions, the collapse is only a matter of time.
So you guys have heard of mother's intuition that they know something is wrong. They can't quite put their finger on it. Again, I don't know how credible this YouTube channel is because, you know, there's all the clickbait channels, true crime channels, or what have you. This looks like something close to, what is it, ET&T? I'm not entirely sure. But with the stuff, because I'm seeing more and more people talk about the contradictions on the financial side, the family side, of which, holy cow, that it is a whole spider web of stuff. So I don't even remember everything. But people really need to start looking, because a lot of people, including myself, got swept into the emotional side of it and went, oh my gosh, like this is terrible, blah, 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 blah. And then some of us kind of pulled back or was able to kind of step away from it, either because of life, job, what have you, and then come back and go, what's everybody yelling about? Oh, this looks bad. What is this? Why is this? What is this? So, Jack Skellington, what is this? What is this? Anyway, sorry. So yeah, I'm gonna continue to watch on it. I'm doing it like on and off because this is a lot to take in, and there's so much crazy stuff. As I said, nothing's off the table at this point from what I'm getting, what I believe. You guys do your own research. Do not take my word for it. Go out. Look for yourselves, think for yourselves, which is something that is not encouraged enough on this freaking platform or anywhere else, I think. But that is something that Charlie Kirk did encourage, was conversation and thinking critically and coming to your own conclusions and explaining why you came to those conclusions. That is something that I do know and understand about Charlie Kirk from the little bits and more that I learned about him. So anyway, with that being said, this video has been long enough. Give me your thoughts in the description below and actually look at stuff. Don't just go with the emotional narrative. Use your brains, please. Please. Even if it's not an agreement with somebody else, there's too much stuff that's emotionally driven nowadays, and it has got to stop. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye for now.